Ah. Oh man, my jacket's all crumpled up in the back. Heck.
You can tell we were really ready for this one.
Mm-hmm. Oh, why is it so crumpled? Okay, we're good.
Okay.
I have to say, Noah, I think these jackets were probably one of the best investments we've ever made.
I think so. I think it's a distinctive look for the podcast. And if I ever have to wear a jacket for something, it's going to be this one.
Yeah, I mean it's very. I think yours is probably better for wearing out and about than mine. This one is admittedly quite loud.
It is. It's a statement. It's a statement.
It yes, it is definitely a statement. Yours, I think, is subtle enough that you could blend in, and just like people would be like, "That's kind of cool. I like that." But it's not like mine is kind of like, "Hey, my
Yeah.
jacket is different. Look at me."
Yep. It's a good one. Someone asked if I still have the tag on the jacket. Yeah, it's still on here.
Oh, you can. It's looking slightly more worn.
Yeah, it's not doing too great, but I'm just so proud of this. I'm so like when we like found these jackets, like that was so good.
Dude, I mean, what did we pay? $28?
Yeah.
Let's look. I think they're the same brand, right?
Yeah, they're the same brand. I mean, mine
Let me
my
see if I
my
can.
tag says the original price was 350.
I want to see if ours are actually still sold. Let's pull up the this is the brand. This looks
Mhm.
kind of similar to mine. I like that color.
Yeah, it definitely looks similar.
Collections. Wow, okay, they're not quite. Is this even is this company like around anymore?
Hmm.
Uh
It says
oh.
copyright 2020 at the bottom.
Their Twitter, the link on their Twitter goes to this account doesn't exist. Their
Mm.
Instagram is not available.
Hmm.
Facebook is not available.
Wow, we got lucky then.
This company, I think, bit the dust.
Yeah,
But
I
I
guess
guess
so.
that's why it was in and going out of business, Lord and Taylor. Is this your jacket?
I I th- I want to say yes. It definitely looks like it. I feel like it
Um,
is.
as seen in, that's just the same link. This is a weird website. They don't
Yeah.
see they don't have any. You can't buy any. This is a dead company. We have purchased the last. We literally bought out that company, Noah.
Yeah, that's true. Wow,
Does
I
that
didn't
make? I think
realize.
that makes these rare collector's items. They're probably worth thousands,
I think so.
and we
At
only paid
least.
$28.
Yeah. I don't know. These are good. Good
That's the
investment, like
deal
you
of the
said.
century.
Yeah.
I should make a YouTube video. I got the cheapest out of business brand jacket on Lord and Taylor out of business sale.
That's algorithm will love that.
Yeah, I'm sure that would be successful and would appeal to my audience. They'd
Oh
love to
yeah.
see that. Wouldn't you guys like to see that video? So
Yeah, I'm not sure.
today's episode, I mean, we've got you wanted to talk about the Wordle thing, right?
Yeah, I did want to talk about that a little bit.
I don't know much about that, so that's going to be new to me.
Yeah.
And then we've got EV week.
Yeah.
That should be interesting. I also actually just yesterday drove a Volvo XC60 Recharge, which we can.
Nice.
we'll go into more detail when we discuss. But let's see here. Okay, someone is like, "Hey, look at that, shopping at Lord and Taylor. Don't knock it until you try it. You can't try it because now they're out of business. But a year ago, they were only going out of business. So,
I mean, I think
there
there
you
might be
go.
other locations, but the one in particular that we went to was going out of business at the time, and now it's
I
gone.
think the whole company's done. Pretty
Really?
sure. I thought so. Yeah, well, okay, well, I look it up and it says Lord and Taylor was an American department store chain.
Oh yeah. Wait, what the?
That's kind
Oh,
of
they.
sad, actually. It's the oldest department store, opened in 1824.
Oh wow. Wow. I did not realize that.
Wait, but they still have a website. Are they just an online vendor now?
Oh, it says they've now become an e-commerce retailer. So yeah, it looks like they're just online now.
Ugh. There you go.
Huh. I did
Hmm.
not realize that. That's really interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of crazy how, what was it about? Well, I was going to say 10 years ago. It's more like 15 years ago now. Remember when it was like the takeover of big box stores and everyone was like, oh, all the local businesses are going out of business?
Mm-hmm.
And now the big box stores are going out of business.
Yeah.
Sears? When was the last
Mhm.
time you went to a Sears?
Couldn't tell you.
Well, do you remember when Borders closed?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
To this day, I still have some Borders gift cards that I got for my birthday at a rather poor time.
Oh, that's a shame. I don't know if you're gonna be using those.
Yeah, you know what? I have to say, how in the world is Barnes and Noble still chugging along? Like,
They sell like now they're like selling anything but books. Or like they're selling books still, but they're selling like toys and like gifts and like a bunch of random not book stuff. I think that's how they're doing it.
that is true, but I feel like that's all. I mean, if even Best Buy is like a little iffy, like all the stores, all the brick and mortar locations are really struggling. And
Mm-hmm.
Barnes and Noble is a brick and mortar location primarily that is full of books. And I mean, I feel like books are actually kind of coming back a little bit, but I don't know how they're coming back enough for for that to make overhead, you know?
Yeah, honestly, I don't know. There's some good comments. People are talking about Radio Shack. I remember Radio Shack going out of business.
Oh yeah.
At the time that they were going out of business, my dad and I went to a bunch of Radio Shacks, and everything was like super deep on sale. So I bought a bunch of like
So cheap.
stuff.
Do you remember when you got the iTunes gift card rack?
Yes, it's still in my room at home.
I'm not surprised at all. You cherish that thing.
Yeah, that was good. I've got like a ginormous pack of AA batteries, like Radio Shack branded AA batteries, and I think we might have run out of them by now, but those lasted a couple years because we got so many of them. They were super cheap.
That they if you haven't run out of those, I don't know how they're still like, electrified after that long.
Yeah, I don't know, but
Here's a good point though. Happy that
mhm.
Micro Center is grinding. I feel like Micro Center doing well?
I have no idea, but I hope so. I love Micro Center, so that's like definitely one of my favorite stores.
Okay, let's look up Micro Center annual revenue. I don't think this is very up to date. So apparently in 2015 they made 2.4 billion, but that was 7 years ago. So I don't know. Okay, wait. Here's Forbes. I can't. How do you know? Okay, it was number 200 on the Forbes list of America's largest private companies in 2021.
That's good. They've been sponsoring
Yeah,
a lot of YouTubers recently too, so they've got to be. I mean, I get maybe that's not a good sign. I don't know,
true. No,
but
you're right.
they've been doing it.
You know, they reached out to me actually, one of their reps, and then he ghosted me.
That's a shame.
No, but Micro Center is doing well. I actually am lucky enough in DC, Noah. I have 3.
Really? Where?
Yeah, I mean there's one that's sort of like northwest of DC. There's one that's south of DC, and there's one that's east. It's sort of DC is sort of in the center of a Micro Center triangle, which is quite convenient. I love
It
Micro
is
Center.
nice. I actually remember I went to one of them when I was living out there, but I don't think there's any around me in California here, so missing that.
I mean, we're lucky because we live close to the only one in Pennsylvania.
It's a
Or
good reason for
it
me to go
used to live.
home.
Yeah. Is
Yeah,
there no, I swear there must be a Bay Area Micro Center. There has to be.
I don't think so. We should probably get started in a minute here, but
Oh
I'll check.
yeah. You have Fry's Electronics.
I've
the
I've
list.
heard of it, but I've never been there before. I must have to. I should check it out.
All right, yeah, we should definitely get started.
Okay, one sec. Oh, you can go for it.
Alrighty. Welcome to Dark Mode, the podcast that brings you sage advice from 2 technology experts. And that's not just what we call ourselves, it's what our moms tell people we are when they lose the keys to the electric Apple car. I'm your host, Luke Miani.
And I'm your host, Noah Rubin. On this show, we take questions from listeners, attempt to answer them to varying degrees of success, and maybe even have a laugh or two along the way. So today's main topic, as Luke hinted to at the beginning, is going to be cars, electric cars, and the Apple car, and all that good stuff.
Ooh.
But before we get into that, I wanted to talk for a couple minutes about the Wordle clone debacle that's been going on for the past couple of days, because I thought it was a really interesting topic that came up, and it ties into some things that we've talked about in the past regarding like the App Store. So I think, Luke, you said maybe you heard a little bit about this, but you weren't super familiar. Is that right?
Yeah, I honestly don't know anything about this. I saw on Twitter people posting memes about it, but I'm always so late that I was like, what the heck? What does that mean? So yeah, I'm flying blind here.
All right. Well, let me. I can explain it a little bit. I also originally saw it on Twitter, and then I was kind of watching the whole drama unfold. So, have you heard of the game Wordle before?
I've heard of it. I don't think I've played it.
Okay, I've never played it, and I only heard of it because of this whole debacle. I hadn't heard about it before this, but it's this. It's some sort of like a word-based, like a word game that some guy made, and he puts it up on his website, and it's free, ad-free website kind of thing. And people on Twitter seem to be obsessed with it. If you see, there's like the Twitter post with like the square, the colorful square emojis. That's like all the Wordle
Yeah.
things. I honestly don't know how the game works exactly, but it has to do with like guessing letters or something like that. But anyways,
Yeah, that meme, that surface level was about as much as I knew about it.
yeah, I've never played the game before, but the thing that was going on was someone made an app version of the game, because the original developer who made this game, it's a mobile optimized website, and he never made an app for it, and that was never his intention to make an app for it. But this other guy made an app which people have been calling a ripoff, and
Hmm.
published it on the App Store. I think he named it like Wordle the app. I think that was the name of the app. And
Interesting.
first of all, there was the debate. The original developer of the game doesn't have like a trademark of the name Wordle. So, technically there wasn't like a, copyright infringement to name it like that, but you could easily argue that it was misleading. But the main thing that people didn't like was there was a $30 a year in-app purchase or like subscription in this Wordle clone that would let you, I think, play more rounds of the game or something like that. And so that was the big thing going on, was like, stealing the app, or like stealing the idea, trying to profit off of this thing that's going big. And then of course, the big $30 in-app purchase. And so people were like flaming this developer on Twitter, and he responded, and he wasn't exactly very nice in the way that he responded to it, but it was just this whole thing going on. And I just thought it was really interesting, related to the App Store, and like, all the clones and like these fake apps that show up on the App Store. And so I just thought it'd be interesting to talk about for a couple minutes.
Do you remember when everyone and their uncle did that with Flappy Bird?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Flappy Bird got that was such a weird, like, that was another thing. I'm always so late to these like app drama things that unfold on Twitter. But
Mm-hmm.
that one was that one was pretty funny, I have to admit, because it was so stupid and I feel like everyone knew it was so stupid.
Yeah, I mean that the premise is obviously, pretty silly, but I didn't even think about the comparisons, because that was both, a case where the original developer released the game, and I think it was free in both cases, and I don't know if there was any profit in the Flappy Bird game, but and then there were all the clones that came out and did that. So I didn't even think about that comparison, but it's pretty similar.
So apparently, Chad is saying that Apple removed the clones from the App Store, or at least I
Yeah,
guess they got the obvious ones.
yeah, I was gonna mention that after after we talked for a couple minutes. But yes, Apple ended up removing uh this guy's app, the guy that everyone was flaming, and I think there were some other apps as well that ended up getting removed by Apple. But they were allowed on in the first place, and they were there for some amount of time, and the guy made a pretty good amount of money off of that in-app purchase, and I'm not sure if he gets to keep it after the app got removed, but Apple is pretty late to
I
the
think
game here.
so. I feel like if your app gets removed, they probably don't revoke all your earnings.
Yeah, I don't know if it, because I think it was a subscription kind of thing. I'm not sure if you paid the $30 up front, or
I
like
think
I
you
don't know how
do.
exactly it worked. But like
I think
if you
when you
pay,
start the subscription, you pay it, and that starts your billing cycle.
but Apple can't, like, because if they take the app down and like people can't access the thing that they paid for, they can't let that happen.
Interesting. I see
I
what you're
don't
saying,
know.
because they probably don't pay out right away. They probably pay at the end of the month or something. Maybe they did, you know, he might not have gotten paid after all.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the result was. I mean, obviously his, reputation definitely took a hit, because a lot of people were, flaming on this guy, and he didn't respond to it very well. But it's just, I don't know. It's just really interesting that, like, yes, Apple did remove the clones, but those clones were, allowed on there for quite a while, which I don't know. You can get into this debate about, if the original guy really owned the app or not, or if he owned the idea or not.
Hmm.
But I guess the fact that Apple removed them means that there was some violation that the people, that these developers did, so they shouldn't have been allowed
Yeah.
on in the first place, right?
I guess it's a matter of like, because you're right. It was a similar thing with Flappy Bird when people started knocking it off. It's like, okay, how many people, like, can you claim ownership of a game where you tap on a falling object to increase its height and go through pipes? Like, regardless of
Right.
if it's a bird or a pig, and the pipes could be buildings. Like you could, I mean, the pipes themselves were ripped off from Mario Kart. So, or not Mario Kart, Mario,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like that's what those were. Those were rip-offs, but the
Yeah.
game wasn't a rip-off. But then people ripped it off. I mean,
I
I
mean,
don't, I don't necessarily think that any game is wholly, unique. I
definitely
don't think
not.
like YouTube videos, games, movies, any piece of media is rooted in someone saw something and went, "Oh, that gives me an idea." Like nobody is just sitting around in a void generating content from nothing. Like that's just not how it
Yeah.
works. But the difference is when you're literally just taking that exact thing, ripping it off and saying, "All right, time to make a buck." I feel like
Yeah,
that's kind of
exactly.
scummy.
Yeah, because like you could argue that like Flappy Bird is in a long line of it's basically an endless runner. It's instead of running, it's flapping or whatever. But like think
Yeah.
about like Cannonball, that classic like grayscale where the guy's running on the buildings. That was like a
Mhm.
classic Flash game, and it's pretty. I mean, it's a little bit different, but like yes, exactly what you said. You can argue that there's everything is inspired by something else. But I think in this particular case, naming it like Wordle the app and like
Mm.
clearly and like clearly ripping that off with the exact name and then putting what some might call like a predatory or like an overly much like subscription like $30 a year. Maybe it's worth it for some people. I don't know exactly how the billing terms worked, but like I don't know, there is definitely
You
something
know what that tells
shady
me?
there. What?
That is really so $30 a year is proof that that's a cash grab. Cuz $30 a year is low enough that you're like, "Oh, I'm just going to pay it and then forget about it."
Hmm.
But that's the goal. I don't
Yeah.
even think that if you're setting up something for $30 a year, what you're saying is I want $30 from you. If you
Yeah.
if you price that like what is that per month? That's like a dollar, 250 a month.
Yeah.
So if you price something at 250 a month, it's the same thing theoretically, but for 250 a month, you want people to continuously use it. For $30 a year, you're hoping to just make one round, go viral, collect your $30 from everyone, and then you're done with it. Who cares? If they cancel their subscription immediately, doesn't matter. You got your $30. That's all you came for. It's not something that you're trying to do long term. You're just trying to get it right up front. And heck, if you can get some people to pay for it and forget about it and then a year from now they pay you again merely because it's been 12 months and 365 days and they don't remember, then
Yeah.
that's a nice added bonus.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right because the developer basically confirmed it because when he was like trying to defend himself on Twitter, one of the things he said was like he's basically like, I never make an app unless it has a subscription in it because that's where the money comes from. He's like, I never like if I ever publish an app, it
Whoa.
always has a subscription in it because people that's where the money comes in. And like the free trial thing where like you get the free trial and then it automatically starts a subscription, like
Yep.
that's basically like that's where the money comes from.
Those are I think that those free trials that automatically start billing you are dangerously close to being illegal. Like
I think
they are
they definitely
right
shouldn't
up on the
exist.
edge there. They should not be legal and they are right at the very very edge of the law.
Oh yeah, they definitely shouldn't exist. And also Apple, if Apple really wants to play like the good guy and being so pro consumer and like their app store being such like a great place for consumers, just don't do it. Just
Mhm.
don't do the auto renewing things.
Yeah.
Just don't do it.
They try to have it both ways. That's the thing that bothers me about Apple's App Store approach is they say like, "Oh, you need us to protect you with our
Hmm.
closed walled garden." But then they have all this nonsense that they're it's like it's so obvious that the money is the motivation because if it was
Hmm.
really about protection, they wouldn't allow this kind of nonsense to be on it. And it's so transparent to anyone who looks at it for 2 seconds.
Yeah, it's this like Wordle thing is like the latest in a very long line of issues with the App Store like this, with like clone apps. There's a whole thing with like fake reviews. I've seen some like fascinating articles and research into that, like fake 5-star reviews to pump the apps up, like these predatory free trials, like so much bad stuff on there.
And chat pointed out here, Apple kind of does that too when they offer free Apple Arcade or Apple TV for a limited time when you purchase one of their products. I would say you're definitely right. Apple, they didn't do it quite as bad, because I feel like the scummiest ones are the 7-day free trials,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
because that's really a negligible amount of content. And it's really just designed to trap you into a billing cycle, even if it's only one. Like if you're signing up for a 7-day trial, then you're really not making a big commitment to it. With Apple's services, I mean, at least the Apple TV was a year,
Yeah,
which
then they
is
extended it too.
yeah, and that's providing value. I feel like a year free
Yeah.
trial. Okay, I'll do that, and then if 13 months later I see I got billed $5 and I cancel it, I think I've done okay in that exchange. If I paid
Yeah.
$5 for 13 months of Apple TV Plus, even if I didn't use it very much, I only watched Ted Lasso and like 2 movies. Oh, and
Yeah.
Mythic Quest.
Yeah.
Mythic Quest was good.
That was
I
good.
also I tweeted about this yesterday actually. I got an App Store notification saying your new device includes Apple Arcade. I got that device after I signed in on a 9-year-old MacBook Pro.
Interesting.
I bought 6 of the new M1 Pro MacBook Pros in October. Didn't get that notification once. Think how many
Really?
Apple products I've bought, actually. I've bought a lot of Apple products since Apple Arcade came out and never got that pop-up until now. That's a little
That's
sus.
weird. Yeah, that is weird. And it was on such
Do you
an
think-
old computer.
Do you think when the Apple Car comes out, they'll have a free trial to like Apple Car Plus?
I hope so. Imagine starting paying for that out of the gate.
See, I joke about like Apple making a subscription or like an app store with the car. But if you think about it, if Apple is going to make a car, which by the way, I don't know. I'm skeptical about Apple making a car, or at least making it in like our lifetimes, my YouTube channel's lifetime, however long that is. Do you think it's going to happen?
I think that the thing that I see happening would be Apple partners with some like automotive company and makes a car with them that's like Apple branded with the Apple infotainment system. But like, is Apple really going to build the entire car? Like, they have the money to hire the people to do it, but like, is that really what they want to be doing? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you could argue that Apple is richer than any car company. So theoretically, if anyone wanted to throw money at a problem, it would be Apple. But I don't think I mean, cars aren't a huge margin.
Mm-hmm.
People aren't making large margins on cars, and Apple loves their margins. So if they're going to be making if they're not just going to be making the car, but also making all the tooling and custom design, which I feel like they'd be inclined to do. That the whole idea of like them going to Volkswagen and saying, "Hey, you guys want to work with us and make a car, Apple car?" That whole thing, it kind of gives me iTunes phone energy, and I don't see it working out very well.
Yeah, I don't like the Apple car would be, first of all, by far their most expensive product, but it would be like in a completely different realm than everything else. Like, I get that there's, the technology in the car, but like a car. That's like in a
Mm.
completely different realm than like phones and laptops. I don't
And
know.
also, this car, I'm certain, would be extremely heavily biased towards those with iPhones. I would even wonder if it would be fully operable without an iPhone. Like, you know how an Apple Watch is kind of, I guess some people do use them with Android phones, but like realistically, you're going to buy it with an iPhone.
Don't you need
Same
an
thing with
iPhone to set
AirPods.
up the Apple Watch though?
I know, maybe. All I know is that some people do actually use Apple Watches with Androids, but I think those people probably also have access to an iPhone, even if they don't daily it.
Yeah.
But like, what if you need an iPhone? Like, okay, let's say the whatever system this Apple car would run would probably be CarPlay-esque, right? CarPlay extended,
Yeah.
and they would probably have it on the dashboard gauges as well.
Mm-hmm.
That makes me okay. Here's so let me pitch this to you, Noah.
Okay.
I think Apple shouldn't bother making a car. I think they should make a car OS
Mm-hmm.
because I think everyone loves CarPlay. I love
Yeah.
CarPlay. I use it. You can't use it yet, but we'll get to that in a sec.
Yeah.
But what Apple needs to do is make the whole thing, or at least make CarPlay broader than it is. I feel like the way that CarPlay is implemented now is missing some potential.
Mm-hmm.
Mainly the number of cars that have digital gauge clusters. I would absolutely love if I could have two CarPlay screens open because my
Mm-hmm.
car has, well, I have three screens, but one of them is a climate control, so it's not really something that would change. But I have like the center screen, and then I have the gauge. It's the Audi virtual cockpit, so it's a big old. It actually runs an NVIDIA chip, so maybe Apple wouldn't put anything on it. It's an NVIDIA Tegra. That's what Audi uses for their virtual cockpit. It's tremendously fast. It's very good. It would certainly be enough for CarPlay. Could you imagine if you could have like Apple Maps on your gauges where you could follow the line, have that super clear, and have, Spotify or Apple Music or whatever on the center screen?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that is peak. That's exactly what I would want.
Yeah, and getting into, I guess we can get into my situation a little bit because it's very
Yes.
similar to what you're describing. The only difference
Mm-hmm.
is that you swap CarPlay for Android. So I recently started a lease on a Polestar 2. It's the 2022 model, and this car, the infotainment system. And there's a lot of things we can talk about with this car. It's a fully electric car, lots of interesting things. But relevant to right now is that it runs, it's an infotainment system that runs on Android Automotive. So there's a difference. It's not Android Auto. Android Auto is the app powered experience. So if you have an Android phone with the Android Auto app and you plug it into your dashboard and it works like CarPlay. But Android Automotive is the entire system. So the whole system, the digital gauge cluster, the touchscreen, everything is powered by Android Automotive, which is like a real version of Android, a full fat version of Android with apps and everything.
Yeah, it has the Play Store, doesn't it?
It has the Play Store. The apps you can download are
Not
very
all apps,
limited.
though.
It's
Yeah.
very limited because they're optimized for the screen, but it is the Play Store and you sign in with your Google account and everything. It's legit Android.
But the thing that's interesting is, I mean, it only just came out. Like,
Mm-hmm.
the Polestar 2, as far as I'm aware, is the first car that started shipping with it. And it's not the
Yeah, I
last,
think
though.
so. Right.
So I actually just drove with my dad looking for a new car for my mom, the Volvo XC60 Recharge. Now Polestar is Volvo to all intents and purposes. If you
Mhm.
buy a Polestar, it comes out of a Volvo dealer. So it's sort of it's not even like Honda has Acura, Toyota has Lexus. It's not or Hyundai has Genesis. It's not even, that much of a split off. It's very very tight. And the Polestar 2 was on Android Automotive. They've now switched over. All the new Volvo models are getting it as well. So the XC60 that I drove had Android Automotive, and my impression was a little mixed, if I'm honest.
I agree with
Um,
you there, but I want to hear your opinion first.
so, well, first of all, there's a slight Volvo is a little confusing right now because Polestar is either an entire company or a trim level. Because I drove a Volvo XC60 Polestar, but the Polestar is a wheel package basically. Which,
Really?
yeah,
Huh.
Polestar's been around for about a decade even. It used to be the performance trim level on their like higher end trims back in the day. Like
Hmm.
even before they got bought by Geely, which is a Chinese car company that bought them in 2015, threw a bunch of money at them and said, "Hey, make some good cars." And they said, "Okay, let's do that." So then, since then, the Polestar continued to be essentially like Audi's S, BMW's M, Mercedes's AMG. It was kind of that, but now it's its own thing, and it sort of signifies EV, but it doesn't have to. Because then the other thing that's confusing is it's a Volvo XC60 Recharge. Recharge means either a plug-in hybrid or a pure electric vehicle. How confusing
Interesting.
is that?
Well, the Polestar 1 was a hybrid as well.
Yes, but not a Recharge. Because Recharge is Volvo, but Volvo is Polestar, but Polestar is not Volvo. So Recharge, no, it's tremendously confusing. The
It
Apple
is
would actually
confusing.
love it very much.
Yeah, that's true.
It definitely has that energy. But so okay, well let's as I've got up here. This is isn't this the color of the Polestar that you got? Midnight.
I can't tell if that's the midnight or like the black one, but it looks like the
On my
midnight
screen,
one.
it looks blue.
Okay, then yeah, I think it is.
It's a great color. Oh yeah, so
There you
here's
go.
what the Android Automotive screen looks like. And I think it was better implemented in the Polestar 2 cuz I drove one of those as well and had a positive impression of it. In the Volvo XC60 Recharge, which is a plug-in hybrid, it was a little basic. It seemed lacking. They removed the physical drive mode selector, and that bothered me because you have to do everything through the settings icon, which is a tiny little gear in the bottom right corner. And that's
Mhm.
how you go. And that's a very important thing because the whole feature of the XC60 Recharge that I drove is that it's a hybrid car, right? So it has an electric motor at the back and a four-cylinder ICE engine at the front. I realize now that that's redundant. Internal combustion engine at the front.
Yeah.
But because it has an 18 kilowatt battery pack, which sort of sits in the transmission tunnel in the middle of the car, good for weight distribution, by the way, it can actually run up to 78 miles an hour for about 20 miles on electric only without using the engine,
Hmm.
which is interesting. So it gets you a combined, with electric range, with very, it's a 150 horsepower electric motor. So it's got enough juice for driving around. You got a combined 57 mpg. I like all of that. That's all very nice. It's compelling. What I didn't like was that I think they removed the drive selector. This particular car didn't have navigation installed, so the whole middle part of the gauges was empty.
Mm-hmm. Mm.
Like, doesn't your Polestar 2 is pretty well spec'd, so it
Yeah.
has the navigation map in the middle.
Yeah, it does. So the screen, the cockpit screen in front of me is the whole screen has a map, and then in the bottom left and bottom right are the like speed and battery and that kind of stuff. But it's most of the screen is covered by the map.
Let's see if we can see that in our picture here. Maybe they'll have a
That
picture of the gauges.
yeah, that picture did not.
Oh, here we
Yeah,
go. Let's look and see if we can find. So, yeah,
there you
here it
go. Yep.
is. So, and it's running Google Maps, which I really like. The fact that you can just use Google Maps um, straight off the bat instead of the terrible navigation system that manufacturers develop.
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad we're finally getting to this point because this is where we should be. And I should mention that Honda, I think maybe Nissan, even Audi, I think, are all like a bunch of companies are rolling this out. They're embracing it. So I think that this is going to catch on. But I think this is our next step towards making cars make more sense.
Mm-hmm.
Would you agree?
I agree because it's really like when your car, like the big thing with with especially with Apple, with all these tech companies like Apple, Google, whatever, is like the ecosystem. And for a long time cars have sort of been separate from the ecosystem, and there have been stopgaps. There is Bluetooth obviously for a long time that let you bring some features of your phone into the car, and it's gotten a little better. And then CarPlay and Android Automotive are sort of like direct ways to say, take this phone that's part of your ecosystem, plug it into your car, and then your car can temporarily be part of your ecosystem. But this is like the next step where this your car actually is in your ecosystem and it's signed into your account and it has your apps on it and everything, and that's the next step.
I definitely agree. I think if Apple came out with an equivalent, I feel like the fact that they haven't developed that is a disadvantage, because I mean the way that it shapes up now is if you're a company like Volvo that's embraced Android Automotive, if you're in the Android ecosystem, that's a big feature for you.
Mm-hmm.
Now, granted, a lot of the feature set that's available to it, they did a good job of not locking out Apple users. Like CarPlay is coming via over-the-air updates, which is another added feature of, an Android-based system. You can just update it over the air. You don't have to go in and have some mechanic charge you $180 in labor to put in an SD card.
Yeah.
But we have to talk about, that's the system that we want in the cars. We have to talk about EVs, Noah.
Mm-hmm.
Because you beat me to it. I was waiting one more lease cycle. I thought that you were gonna. I was surprised to see that you made the decision to go for it.
That's totally fair.
It's been, how long has it been since you took delivery of your Polestar 2?
About a little over 2 weeks. Let's say 2.5 weeks.
So how has it been? What's your 2-week experience in the EV life for the first time ever?
Yeah, that's a great question. Just for a little bit of reference, before this, my first car was a 2011 Chevy Cruze. That was a classic.
Classic.
And then the one after that was the Mazda CX-5, which Luke also had as well.
We both had
almost
identical.
The same car.
Yeah, you had the heated steering wheel, heads-up display, and heated rear seats that I didn't have. But apart from that, we had the exact same car. I got mine first though, so I was the trendsetter.
That's true, because you kind of convinced me to get, because I was still looking at sedans at that point, and you convinced me to get a bigger car, which ended up being really good for like moving for college in DC and all that stuff. So I'll
And
give you that
ironically,
one.
I've now gone back to sedans, and you've sort of half gone back to sedans because the Polestar 2 is it's because it's hard to describe. Whoop, I've accidentally deleted you. Okay, you're back. If we go back to how it looks, like if you have never seen a Polestar 2 in person, like this side profile is almost like mind bending
Hmm.
because it looks like a sedan, but it's kind of halfway between a sedan and a compact SUV.
Yeah, it's really that's like the thing that threw me off when I was first looking at this car, and I remember I was like talking to you about it, that it looks like a really big sedan, or like something about the proportions are off. That was the first thing that caught me with it.
Yeah, and it's because it's like big, but not in like a size way. Because the footprint of the
Hmm.
car is quite small. When you see one, it's a small car, but it's
Yeah.
tall.
Hmm. Yeah, it's definitely an interesting look. And also the first thing I'll say for my 2 weeks is as far as the size goes, as far as like practically speaking,
Yeah.
I would say it's much more of a sedan than an
Mhm.
SUV. And so I'll say, like, there's a pretty good amount of trunk space, and it's a hatchback trunk. So that's pretty good. But like, for example, so the trunk in the front of the car is very small. And the reason why it's so small is because of safety. There's some like safety stuff in the front of the car, or maybe like bigger beam. I don't know how cars work, but like they were
Yeah.
focusing much more on the safety. And so they made the frunk very small in the front. I don't know if you know more about
Yeah.
that.
A little bit. They basically, because it's an electric car, the Polestar 2 shares its chassis design with the Volvo XC40, which also has an electric version now, with more or less the same powertrain. But because it's an electrified version, it's a lot heavier. And part of the crumple zone is having an engine up there to absorb impact. So when you remove the engine and then add weight further back in the car, um, on a modified platform that necessitates essentially, reinforcing that front part, because otherwise it would just crumple up. If all it was an empty place for you to put your backpack, and you've got all these batteries behind you, you're gonna squish up that front part so fast in a crash. So they strengthened it to make it safer, but it's worth noting that the Tesla Model 3 and the Model Y are just as safe with a much bigger frunk because they were designed to be EVs in the first place. So that's a trade-off that they did have to make there. But you said it was large enough for you to fit your bike in the back?
I was able to fit my bike because when I went to pick up the car, I biked, I think it was like 13 miles or something. It's whatever. But like I biked to the Polestar dealer, which was in a mall in San Jose. So I biked there, and then I put my bike in the back of the car and went back. And I will say it was a tight fit to get my bike in the back of the car. Definitely tighter than like the Mazda CX-5. Or I guess I shouldn't say that because I never tried this particular bike in the
Mhm.
Mazda CX-5, but I would say that it was probably a tighter fit. But that's one of the reasons why I went for the tow hitch, which they still need to add. But then I'm going to put a bike rack on there so that I can take multiple bikes on the back of my car.
Yeah, I feel like that would kind of solve your problem because apart from the bike, I mean the Polestar 3 actually had a similar dimension boot space or trunk space to the CX-5. Or the CX-5 is a little bigger, but like when you fold the seats down, the length, the width is pretty close. You know what's interesting actually
What?
is, so when I drove a Polestar 2 with my dad, who has an Audi Q3, which is a compact SUV,
Hmm.
and you'd think, oh, larger. It wasn't. The trunk space, I mean, not height wise, because obviously you have a sedan. It's kind of like a fastback with a lift gate that opens from the top of the window, which is great. You probably couldn't get a bike in otherwise. But the Polestar is actually slightly wider and deeper than the Q3.
Interesting.
You know what was very interesting though? My car, a sedan, an Audi A6, was massively, like, it was almost 10 inches deeper when you fold the seats down, measuring from like the trunk to the back seats. It was almost 10 inches deeper. It was even like 5 inches deeper than the CX5, and it was wider than the CX5 too.
Hmm.
But you wouldn't know
Interesting.
because it's a sedan. So I don't know. I feel like a lot of SUVs, um, not the Polestar. I think the Polestar has a pretty good combination, but I think a lot of SUVs have an illusion of practicality when in reality they're just shaped differently.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's
Especially the
interesting.
compact ones. So while you could make the argument that the Polestar 3 is kind of like, someone said it was a crossover. It's not really a crossover because a crossover is more like hatchback to SUV. This is more of like a sedan hatchback SUV. It's weird,
Yeah.
but I think they did a pretty good job with it, and it drove fantastically. Like the
Yeah.
handling, the suspension, the seats, they nailed it. They really did.
Yeah. Yeah, the drive experience is really nice. One thing that I like about that I notice about the electric is like the instant, like you put down the accelerator and the car will like jolt forward, and then
Oh yeah,
it'll take a little, it's so this car is 4.5 seconds 0 to 60, but
which
when
is
you put
really fast.
and it's the car
That's
has
really fast.
it has over 400 horsepower, and
Hmm.
I think that's per engine because it has two engines in it, and I
No,
think
it's combined.
because they said two. Okay, so it's combined. But the interesting thing is apparently they're going to release a paid software update that bumps the horsepower up from, I think it's like 408, and they're bumping up to like 460 something,
Oh, you
and they're going to
have
do
to
that
do
this
that.
year. Yeah, apparently
Are you gonna get
apparently they're
that?
doing that. I mean, I have to see what difference it is, but it seems pretty interesting.
That sounds really fun.
Yeah.
You know what was interesting actually is, so the Volvo XC60 Recharge, which is
Hmm.
the plug-in hybrid, also has 408 horsepower.
Must be the same engine then, right?
But it's not electric. It's a hybrid. They have one
Mm.
electric motor and one gas engine. And interestingly, they, I suspect, intentionally got the same exact horsepower figure, and as a result of that, I mean, the thing looks like a mom mobile, but it's fast. Let me see if I can pull up a picture of what it looks like, because like the Polestar looks like like a fun, pretty fast car.
Yeah.
Oh, whoops! I've gone to the wrong website. Hang on a second. But the the XC60 looks extremely normal. It looks like an car. And
Yeah.
so, like, here it is. This is the Volvo XC60 Recharge.
Huh.
It looks like any other perfectly normal SUV. There you could see the Android Automotive. It looks
Hmm.
very normal, but it does 0 to 60 in 4.9 seconds.
It's pretty good.
It is fast. It is really surprisingly fast. You don't expect to get into this type of vehicle and, like, look at it. It looks like
Yeah.
the most normal SUV you could possibly imagine, but then you hit the gas and it just goes. And look, see, there's the Polestar trim level.
Hmm.
It's,
Yeah.
it's yeah, it's kind of ridiculous. Um, but I'm a big. I think the time has come. Driving the Polestar 2 convinced me that my next car will be an EV. It did the trick because I'm very happy with the car that I currently have. I guess I can screen share. I'll show you. We should build your car too, Noah. Actually, um, well, here was the. So this is actually the car that my dad really wants. We drove the Polestar 2. He wants a little bit more space. He's waiting for the Audi Q4 e-tron, which actually has about the same range. So somewhere between 250 and like 280 miles of
Mhm.
range. Have you found that to be accurate? You probably haven't driven that much, but have you found the range to be pretty decent?
Yeah, I think the range is pretty good. It's interesting because like the gauge the virtual cockpit thing has a range estimate, but then they recently launched this built-in app called Range Assistant that provides a
Oh,
different estimate that's apparently supposed to be more accurate, but they
interesting.
like say different numbers, which is weird. But no, the range has been pretty good, and then obviously the charging we'll talk about in a bit as well.
Yeah, that's the thing that's going to be a little bit interesting. But so here, let me build out for you guys because I every time we talk about cars, people ask what my car is. Fortunately, I can just build it right here. So mine's a 2021, but they didn't change anything, so it's the same. So it's an A6 Premium Plus in Firmament Blue Metallic, which is actually remarkably similar to the color that your car is, Noah.
Hmm. Yeah,
The
looks
black
looks pretty
optic
similar.
package, the black optic package. Look at how much of a difference it makes. That looks good. That looks really good.
Oh yeah, yeah, that's
For
good.
those of you who are listening, imagine a car that got better looking. That's what it is. These wheels, I was I was skeptical about these wheels in pictures, but they look so good. They really do.
Yeah, I
I
like
think they're
that.
20 inches. Now this is oh god, I would never. This is like old man spec interior. Mine is black on black. So the oh yeah, this like black open pore wood. Oh, I love it. It's a I think this is a beautiful interior. I'm not a huge minimalist person. This I think strikes a good balance. You know what I mean? It's like
Yeah,
not cluttered, but it's not barren.
yeah.
And then this I really wanted this package with these LED lights everywhere, but they didn't have one in stock and
Mhm.
I got my car back in April. No, May 7th. And I basically got it right before car prices exploded and I wouldn't have been able to pretty much get anything. But I'm happy with it. It's peppy enough. Um, it's not 4.5 seconds. I'll tell you that. It's more like 5.8. So
Okay.
brisk, but not crazy. I do really like that instant torque that you get from the electric. Mm.
Hmm.
Wow, people are literally roasting my car. Oh my god.
I think it looks nice. I think it looks cool. I mean, come on.
Boomer interior. Bro, I have 3 screens. There's 3 screens. It
Oh,
is
come
it's a
on.
really comfortable the suspension is crazy. As Jay here said, the wood trim is timeless. It's really nice. I don't know. I've never been like a loud interior person. I like a restrained car that has some grunt. And the one thing that is really hard to look past is when I fill up a tank, if I drive on the highway, because it is actually a mild hybrid. So it has a 48-volt electric system. It's not enough to drive the wheels or even you don't really feel it being a hybrid. It's just sort of a little assist, adds a little extra horsepower, a little extra torque, which you definitely feel accelerating. But it doesn't do anything too crazy. But on the highway, I do get 38 miles to the gallon, which is pretty good, and it has a pretty sizable fuel tank. So with highway driving, I can go about 750 miles on a tank.
That's pretty nice.
I'm gonna miss that when I go to the EV, which, by the way, let me show you, Noah. I don't know if I've even shown you this before. The car that I want is the electric version of my car, the A6 E-Tron. This is what it looks like. Now, it's a concept now, but the concept, they did the same thing with a couple other concepts, and it's literally like identical. The only thing that would be different is these like door mirrors that are cameras, because US regulation doesn't allow that. Headlights might be a little thicker, and then they have invisible door handles, which we probably won't have. Other than that, this is what it's going to look like. And it looks unbelievably cool. I love it. The headlights are OLED. So I don't know if you can see, there's little triangles in there. You can make your own daytime running light pattern.
That's cool.
Same thing with the taillights. Let me see if I can find a picture of the back. Yeah. See, the taillights have that whole bar across it. Oh, this car. This is what I want. That's going to be my next car. And range around 400 miles. Look at that. See, it's funny because a lot of people are talking about, like, I try to get something more reliable. Here's the thing, folks. It's a lease and maintenance is included. So besides the fact that Audis, especially the A6, are quite reliable, actually, I don't have to pay for maintenance, so it's fine by me. And I guess the Polestar, you probably won't have any issues. But yeah, talk about charging, talk about range. I want to hear your experiences.
Yeah, so obviously, I've only had it for 2.5 weeks. The longest that I've done, the longest trip that I've done was, I want to say it was somewhere in like the 60 to 80 mile range. I don't remember exactly how long it was, but my roommate and I drove somewhere, and it was maybe like an hour each way or a little more. But anyways, so as far as the charging, someone asked, why did I get the Polestar and what other cars did I consider? And I will answer that. But one of the reasons why I got why I wanted an electric car specifically was because, first of all, my work has free charging. So like all the buildings have like chargers in front of them, and you can just go there and charge them for free. And then the other thing was, gas out here is like really expensive. Like it's near $5 a gallon, which is it's always more than $4.50. Sometimes I've seen it get up to $5 a gallon.
Is that for regular or premium gas?
The first one on the list, and then it gets higher. It gets into the mid fives.
So that's for
like yeah.
Oh
It's
my
usually
God.
like in like around $4.80 a gallon for like the 89 or like the regular one, and then it gets up into like the fives. Yeah, it's crazy. So
oh wait, I'm sorry, but I've made a terrible mistake. I should have bought a Lamborghini Aventador.
How much does that cost?
Oh, new or used? Either way,
I don't know.
Upwards of 150,000, 200,000, 300, 400, 500. I mean, I cross shopped it, I was like, I either got to get a Tesla Model 3, an Audi A6, or a Lamborghini Aventador. By the way, I should mention the way I got the A6 was I was looking at an A4, and then I looked at a CLA, and then those dealers were sort of competing with each other. And so I asked the Audi guy, like, "Hey, can we get into an A6 for this?" And they said yes. And I said, "Okie dokie, here we go." It's it's a really nice and comfortable car. The lane keep. Have you tried the cruise control in your Polestar 2? Have you?
Yeah.
How has it been?
It's very good. It's the radar cruise control. It has the lane keep, which is it's really cool because on the highway it can basically drive itself. Like it'll
Hmm.
stay in the lane and do turns and everything. The annoying thing is that it has to detect your hands, and it's like after like 10
Yeah.
seconds it starts beeping at you. But like it doesn't. I feel like that's obviously a software thing. But like what I've tried, like it'll steer for you on the highway, no problem.
Oh, same. I did. I mean, I just drove 130 miles back from Pennsylvania today, and sitting on 95 for about 85 miles, I had cruise control going, and it basically drove itself the
Hmm.
whole way. Every once in a while, if there's a left exit, I don't know if you've noticed this, but most cars with the radar cruise and the lane keep, especially, are I think ours are basically about the same. The systems perform pretty similar,
Hmm.
where you engage it and it feels like your wheel kind of locks into place. Feels like it kind of goes ka-chunk
Yeah.
into the lane. It's like
Yeah,
really,
yeah.
it's very solid, very stable. It doesn't go like twitching around or
Mhm.
bouncing off the white lines like some cars do. It's pretty centered and it
Yeah.
follows curves. Like if there's a curve in the road, it doesn't feel like it's going straight until it sees the curve and then it goes. It sort of
Mhm.
naturally goes with it. The
Yeah.
one thing that will trip it up is if there's a left exit. The cars sold in the US are programmed to follow the left line more than the right line because
Mm.
the manufacturers know that if you're on the highway, there's a decent chance that the lane marker might disappear for a while as an exit comes out, and that's usually on the right side. So it'll usually ignore those, but if the exit's on the left, then it'll try to drive down the exit sometimes. And I'll have to
That makes
like
sense.
correct it over. I don't know if you've experienced that yet.
I haven't, uh, I haven't done too much highway driving, with the car, to be honest. I have not
Mhm.
experienced that yet. I will be curious to see. I know with the right exits, it's fine, but I haven't tried it with the left exit.
Yeah, that's the one thing that they could do a little bit better on to
Mhm.
be more in line with Tesla. But I don't know. I mean, I guess I'm surprised I haven't seen as much people in the chat saying like, "Oh, you guys should have got Teslas." I mean, first of all, even if we wanted Teslas, what was the delivery that you were looking at on a Model Y?
The more expensive one was, like, March, and then the less expensive one was, like, June or July.
Yeah, the performance was the earlier one. The long range
Mhm.
was like July, I think.
Yep.
And in fact, here, let's see what it is now. I'm sure it's slipped even further back. So even if we had wanted one, it wasn't really gonna be feasible. So yeah, July 2022 is what they're still saying for the long range performance. Is still saying March though. I guess that's pretty convenient, but it's expensive. It really is. And I mean the lease prices that we're both paying, I think, are pretty reasonable. But oh yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
Darren wants you to go back to charging. How has that been?
Yes. So, okay. So as I was saying, one of the reasons why I picked the Polestar or why I wanted an electric car was because I could charge at work and gas is super expensive. But the Polestar actually comes with a 2-year plan with Electrify America, which is one of the charging networks
Hmm.
out there.
I think they're
And
the
so it's
largest.
yeah, they're the largest or one, I don't know. But they have a bunch of them. I'm out in the Bay Area, so there's a bunch of them around here. And so it's a 2-year plan, and you get unlimited free 30-minute charge sessions. So you pull up to the thing, You can charge for 30 minutes, and then there's like a 45-minute to an hour cooldown before you can get your next 30 minutes of charge. And the charging, so the charger at the offices, at all the office buildings, is really slow. It's like, I know there's like level 2 charging and like level 1, or I don't know which one it is, but it's very, very slow. It's the kind of thing where, if you drove there in the morning and plugged it in, and then you left, in the afternoon or the evening, you get some good charge. Or since I live so close to the office, I could just go there like on the weekend and drop my car off and let it charge, whatever. But the Electrify America chargers are very fast, and the charging depends heavily. First of all, it depends heavily on how much charge is in the battery. So when the charge in the battery is low, it charges very, very fast. And then the more charge gets into the battery, the slower it charges. And once you get to in the 70 or 80%, it will charge very slowly through that charger up the rest of the way.
That makes sense. Probably.
Makes
And
sense.
didn't they recommend you not even bother charging above like 90%?
Yeah, they recommend, some people say 80. Polestar officially recommends 90%. But once you get to like around like 70, 80%, it will start to charge very slowly. But, honestly, at that point, and you can make the argument, like they say 250 miles of range, but if you're not charging all the way up, you're not getting all of that range. But,
Exactly. That's true.
it is a trade-off. But, yeah.
It seems like electric cars are, I mean, 250 miles of range, I think, is where I would have to be for usable daily driving.
Mm-hmm.
The thing that I would want, so the reason that I didn't buy an electric car right now, there's two main ones. Reason number one, I live in a building with no electric car charging ability. So I would rely on charging networks for all charging. And that isn't the most convenient thing realistically. Even if I could just have, a 240 volt or even a household outlet and be able to trickle charge. If I don't drive a ton of miles, my lease is 10,000 miles a year. I think yours is too, right?
I went for the lower one. It's like 7,500.
7,500. Oh
Yeah.
shit. Okay. Yeah. So, we don't drive a ton. I'd probably be okay trickle charging at home. Do you have a trickle charger plugged in at home?
I don't. I haven't.
Oh,
I haven't done that
you
yet.
should though. You have a garage.
I could do it, but I don't know. Like, I literally live a mile from like a bunch of office buildings, so it's not
True.
as much. Whereas, like, I feel like, if you're more in the city, and I don't even know where the nearest charger is for you, but like for me, it's really, really close. Yeah.
I think I would probably. So the thing that I would want, well, I can't charge here. That was one reason.
Mm-hmm.
The bigger reason is I like sedans. I like kind of sleeper, like luxurious sedans. I'm not a super like sporty guy, but I like a luxury sedan that has some oomph. The Polestar 3 is good. It wasn't out last May when I was getting a car, so that wasn't an option. A Model 3, I just think is overdone. I think there's so many of them. For the money that you're paying there, they kind of are the Corolla of the EV world. They're kind of everywhere. I don't really particularly like the look of it. I think it looks like a dumpling from the rear. So I wasn't going to get a Model 3. And that was just, I'm just not going to do it. What the reason that I'm waiting is for more.
You're about to make a really good pun, though.
Oh,
you're about to say what drove you.
Oh, yeah.
I don't want to miss out on that.
That was good. Thank you for catching that.
Yeah.
So I wanted something more unique than a Tesla, and I'm like, you know what? The EV landscape for what I want isn't there right now. I got a good deal on an A6, which is very comfortable and it's by far and away the nicest car I've ever owned. So I'm very happy with that for 3 years or 2 years and 9 months, because then I'll do a lease pull ahead, and that lines up perfectly with when Audi is coming out with a lot of other EVs that I'll then be able to get with a loyalty discount. You see that? I thought it all through.
That's pretty good.
But 350 miles of range was what I was looking for because
Mhm,
for most things day to day, I don't drive 200 miles a day. I don't. There's very few trips that I take where I would even use up 250 miles of range. A full
mhm,
charge.
right.
That's not the concern for me. The concern is if I go somewhere and can't charge there, and I want to come back. That's the
Mhm.
concern for me.
That's totally fair, and I feel like on the West Coast, that's probably less of an issue than the East Coast,
Yeah.
I would say.
Especially with cities. I've got a family friend who they moved to a Model 3 from Philly, so 130 miles from Philly to DC is super easy on a Model 3. They have like 300 miles of range or whatever. So
Mhm,
they came down on almost a full charge, drove around, go back to the hotel at night, all the charges are full. They can't charge up overnight.
hmm,
Wake up in the morning and now your whole schedule is thrown off because they didn't have enough to get back. And so then it was
mm,
like, okay, do we go get lunch? We got to find lunch where there's a charging point, uh, or we have to stop at a service center on the way back where there's a supercharger. It's 30 minutes out of the way. Those are the little gripes that I would be a little bit concerned about.
that's totally understandable. For me personally, I don't drive a ton, and when I'm
Hmm.
driving around here, like, realistically, the furthest that I would go with like, San Francisco's, like, 30 something miles, let's say, like, 40 miles away, from me, and, like, obviously, there's charging options there, but, like, even just, 40 miles there, 40 miles back, totally fine. Or other,
Yeah.
exploring some other areas I'm looking forward to exploring some areas for biking, but, going, for me personally, the range wasn't the biggest factor, but I could totally understand, like, for some other people would be.
Yeah. And I mean, even for me, realistically, it's not that big a deal. The longest I usually drive is up to visit home, which is about
Mhm.
130 miles. So yeah, I think it's not going to be the biggest deal, but I just wasn't quite ready yet. The availability wasn't quite there. 2021 is so expensive. I mean, my goodness, I went on um, my dealer's website because my dad was looking at EVs and he kept getting insane prices for lease or like there's no incentives right now. Right now, people are asking $1,000 a month for my car. That's 30% more than what I pay for the same car. Or no, that's not 30% more than I pay 700, and now they're going for 1,000. Like it's a nice car, and I think at 700 a month with all of the maintenance and oil changes, all that stuff in there with taxes included, and out the door, everything done, no money down. I'm happy with that. $1,000 before tax, before maintenance. You're talking about almost 1,200.
Mhm.
That's ridiculous. That is
Yeah.
literally insane. And you'd be paying at that point 36 $36,000 on the car to own it for 3 years. That's stupid.
That is a lot. And before we wrap up, I know that we're over
Yeah.
time. I don't think anyone is necessarily going to complain about that, but we want to wrap
Yeah.
up here soon. So I'll just say a couple of things very briefly. As far as the charging goes, so I have the unlimited 30-minute charge times, and if I'll show up there with low battery, let's say somewhere 20% or even lower, it'll charge, I don't know, probably about 1% a minute. So I can get it, up a solid 30, maybe 30, 40% more, whatever. And that's enough. It's enough for me to, get back the rest of the way and whatever. But eventually, I'll go out and do another charge. But that is 30 minutes that I'm waiting. And,
Mm.
one time when I did it, I was with my roommate and we just walked around like the little shopping area that we ended up stopping at. One time I did it and there's, the screen, the thing has built-in LTE and it's like unlimited data, and they just put a web
Oh,
browser in it, so you can go on like YouTube or whatever and just like watch a video. It's not a good aspect ratio for
yeah,
like
it's
a
quite a tall
video,
screen.
but like I just sat in there, like you could watch a video or listen to music or whatever. So it does take up some of your time, but you
Mm,
just sit in the car, and obviously the car is running and the climate's running and everything's running. So
yeah,
it's not as convenient as gas, but it's I don't think it's too bad.
yeah. I guess that is why you would want to do. That's probably the more compelling reason to want more range. It's not necessarily to go further, but to charge less often.
Right.
Because
Yeah. Or
theoretically, and actually, wait, here's a question that I have for you. This is a big one.
mhm. Okay.
So, like, if we're talking about 350 miles of range, I've got a full battery in my EV and
Mhm.
I'm just vibing, right? I'm not, let's say I only drive maybe 10 miles a day.
Mhm.
How much juice am I losing if if I just park the car and leave it? How much does the battery drain on its own?
From what I can tell, it's very little. I think it's pretty much negligible, because when you lock the car, and by the way, one of the cool things is like you don't turn the car on or off. You just get out, you hit the thing, and then it just
Mm-hmm.
locks, and it's off. Or you open the car and it's on. Like you don't turn it on or off. I think that's pretty cool.
It's trippy.
Yeah.
It's
But
weird. My car actually, my car you have to turn on, but you can do that to turn it. You can just get out and it turns off. I don't like it. It scares me. I mean, it's like when you get out, like the car stays on, but then after 30 seconds, it just powers off and locks the
mhm.
doors. So you can just pull up, park, get out. But I can't do that. I'm not used to that. I like a button. I'm like, off, on.
Yeah, that's true. Because like when I was test driving the car and I was like at the end, I was like, okay, how do I like turn the car off? And he was like, oh no, you don't turn it off. You get out and you lock it, and it,
It makes
you know
sense.
it never
What?
turns
There's
off.
no
Yeah,
need.
it goes into like super low power mode to
It's like
for
AirPods.
whatever. Yeah, exactly. But okay, to answer your question, from what I noticed,
Yeah.
it's pretty much negligible when it's just sitting around. I'm not don't take that as fact, but I haven't ever gotten in and been like, wait, this is like way lower, maybe a percent, but I don't think I've ever noticed it. Um,
It
and
might
the
be different here in the cold though. I feel like because doesn't it run the uh the climate control to stay where I know Teslas if you leave them out in the summer in a couple hours, like if you leave it for a day, it'll chew through a battery because it runs the AC to keep the internal temperatures down.
That's interesting. First of all, obviously not going to be as cold here as over there. The
Or
temperatures these
hot
days, well,
in the
that's true.
garage.
That is true. These days it's been like lows in the mid 40s and highs in the mid 60s, which has been very nice. But in the app you can turn the climate control on and off. I'm not sure if it does it on its own like you said, but it might. I honestly
Mhm.
don't know.
Oh man, we should probably end this show. We've gone a little bit
Yeah,
over. Oh
that's
well,
all
that's
right.
some bonus content for free.
Yeah.
I mean, all of it's for free, but this is also for free.
Yeah.
Oh man, um we have not monetized this in any way. This podcast has made us, I mean, every time we get a super chat, I don't know, we've made a little bit. Today we made about $3 after YouTube takes their
That'll
cut, so that's pretty good.
that'll go to our into our leases, I guess.
Thanks for contributing to our lease payments. We'll
Yeah.
split it $1.75.
That'll
It goes a long
that'll
way.
that'll that'll make a dent right there.
But thank you guys so much for joining us. I have been your host, Luke Miani.
And I've been your host, Noah Rubin. Have a great night.
All right, I stopped the recording. Someone asked for overtime, do an after party show. I stopped my recording. Did you?
Yeah, I just did.
You guys are now in bonus time.
Oh boy,
We can
this
just
is
stay
double
live while
notice
we upload
time.
it.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Honestly, my favorite thing is people that were like, I wouldn't buy an Audi at any price. Okay, and am I supposed to care about that? Like, everyone's got preferences. Like, every time I see a Dodge Challenger Hellcat, some people would be like, "Oh, I want that car." I don't want that. It's a preference.
Yeah, yeah,
It's always so amusing to me when people think that they're like, I just don't want a Toyota or a Honda. It's the same thing that you just said about not wanting an Audi.
yeah.
People don't seem to understand preference.
I don't
Also,
know.
I'm not aware of a Toyota or a Honda that does 0 to 60 in 4.5 seconds. Are you?
Well, you're the one that would know.
I think 45 seconds is more likely.
Oh no.
Okay, not that slow.
No.
What's the fastest? Okay, I guess you could get a Supra. What's the fastest Toyota? Yeah, it's the Supra. Man, there's not a lot of modern. Yeah, no, I don't like. Toyota's infotainment system is crap. 0 to 60 in 3 to 5 business days.
Oh no.
0 to 60? Yes, eventually. Like,
Oh,
bro.
man.
Also, okay, yeah, I'm not exactly cross shopping a RAV4 and a A6. I'm sorry, those are not the same. Oh man, sometimes yeah, and Tesla fanboys do the same thing too. Oh my god, Tesla fanboys on Twitter make me want to blow my brains out. They're like, "But a Tesla, I don't want one, okay? It's
Yeah.
ugly. I'm sorry. A Tesla Model 3 is ugly. I don't like it." Look,
Yeah, that was one of the things, like, here, like, around here in the Bay Area, there are so many Teslas. Everyone
right?
has a Tesla. I was like, I
They're
want something different.
ubiquitous.
Like, come
Yeah, I
on.
mean that's the thing. Like, okay, a Tesla Model 3, I would probably I would not do the rear wheel drive. That's way too stripped down. A Model 3 long range, I'd get it in blue. I'd get it with
Mhm.
these wheels. I think it looks good from the front. I really don't like the back. I think the trunk is too short and too
Mhm.
tall. And there's one proportion that I really like in cars, and that is having a clean and level belt line and having a swept hood. I know that that's not super indicative of, I know that that's not what they were going for with the Model 3, but that's one of the reasons I don't like it. When the trunk is at a higher level than the hood, it's like a wedge shape. Visually, I don't like it. I much prefer an even belt line, front and back, which is what the A6 E-Tron has. And if anyone's going to be like, "Oh, well, the Model 3 is better because it's more efficient." Plot twist, it isn't. Haha. The A6 E-Tron, which has that perfect even belt line that I love, has the same drag coefficient as a Tesla Model S. And I think it looks better, and they still managed to do that. So, shebang, you're roasted. But, like, look at it. From the back, it doesn't look like a $50,000 car. The interior build quality, I'm sorry, it's not good enough. If you've driven some other cars, whether or not you like them is different, but the quality, the fit and finish that other $50,000 cars offer is hard to match. And what are we looking at here? $53,000. What are the lease? Okay, well, no money down on a lease. There we go. 0. Thank you. 10,000 miles, 700 a month. That's what I pay. I don't know. I've been in Model 3s. I like the Model 3, but it's not my style. I don't like the looks. There's a billion of them. and it would be the same price. Because I mean, realistically, you shouldn't lease a Tesla. You should just buy it. But I didn't want to buy a car right now, so there you go. That's why I didn't buy a Tesla Model 3. But people on Twitter will be like, "Oh my God, what do you kill animals for sport? This is the worst thing you could ever do."
Yeah, I don't know. The Tesla is like another thing. Like the lease terms didn't seem super great, and there's no buyout option at the end, which I wasn't a huge fan of either. And like ugly potato.
And then people are saying the Model S is not the same as the Model 3. Yeah, I agree. I prefer the look of the Model S. However, I'm not. See, a lot of people like to drink the Elon Musk Kool-Aid. I'm not of that. It's $100,000 for a 2012 design with a new front bumper on it and half a steering wheel.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but it's not that crazy. The Plaid is very impressive. The range is impressive. It's great. It's not $100,000 to me. Chuck is still going on.
That's fine. It can,
That's
everyone
fine. You can do that.
Some
Nobody
people drive
is telling you
trucks.
not to do that.
I wouldn't drive a truck, but some people swear by their trucks, and that's fine.
Yeah, and I don't want to make, if you do drive a Tesla, I'm not trying to diss on Teslas. I'm just saying they're not for me. I do think, what if Tesla had something that was size-wise and price-wise between the 3 and the S with like a fresh design, that I would consider, but I don't know. I feel like the Model 3 is 4 years old. There's a billion of them. The S is 10 years old. There's less of them, but they're also $100,000. It's just not for me.
Yeah, that's fair.
Actually, I want to get your opinion on this, Noah, because I'm a big fan. We didn't actually talk about this. On the type here. Okay, got it. We didn't actually talk about this on the show, which I think was, in retrospect, a mistake. Lucid.
Oh yeah.
Now this is a funky looking car, but I dig it. What do you think?
I actually saw when I went to pick up the Polestar, there was a little Lucid. It was like one of those, like the Tesla, they have like the little dealership in the mall.
Oh, you saw one?
Well, yeah, because they had like the Polestar one, and then right near the Polestar was a Lucid one. So they had like the same kind of thing with like a car in there. I think it looks like RoboCop, first of all.
I kind of like it. Do you like it, chat? Do you guys like it?
It's definitely distinctive. I will say that much. I can't tell if I like it or not. I don't know.
I don't know if it's going to age well, but I think I like it. I really like the interior. Let me see if I can find that. By the way, I'm also sending you the audio. I think it's your week for uploading.
Yeah.
But let me see if I can find the interior pictures. So the thing that really intrigues me, now they aren't shipping the base model yet, but they're saying 480 horsepower, 406 miles of range, 77,000. That would be awesome. Because the Model S has gotten so expensive lately. It used to get down into the 80s, which isn't that cheap, but to get 400 miles of range in a super nice luxury EV for 77, it's pretty good. The thing that's crazy to me is the Lucid Air Dream, which is admittedly 170,000. So this is their like Halo car. So it's not exactly practical, but this is also a way to like raise money. But the range is 520 miles, which is serious.
Yeah.
Here's the interior. I think it looks so sick.
Is that a curved screen? or is it just the
Sure
angle?
is. It's curved. It's actually
Huh.
3 screens.
Hmm. I see. Yeah, I see the one at the like where the shifter would be.
I want to see it better here. Let me see if I can design mine. I really like it. Okay, well, let's do the Grand Touring. See, the Grand Touring, this is the best here. So the Dream Edition is their like launch one. It's not, you don't have to spend 170 grand. The Grand Touring is 516 miles of range, and it's Model S priced. It's 95,000 starting.
Mm-hmm.
That would be truly remarkable. Well, this one is 139. I don't know. They have one, and maybe it was like 480 miles of range or something, but their range figures are superb. And oh yeah, here's the interior. Their 3D models could use a bit of work.
Yeah, it
It's
looks
not
like
the
The
most,
Sims or something.
yeah, but it's pretty dope. And this little screen down here um, folds up into the dashboard,
Hmm.
the lower one, and then there's storage underneath it. It's
That's
kind of sick.
cool. I like that interior a lot. Yeah.
What and yeah, I mean it's I think this is a really promising, and they're shipping them. This is a real car that you can buy. I think it's pretty awesome.
Nice.
Well, you can't buy it yet because they're still making them, but I'm glad that we're seeing some competition. What was the other? Oh, that's right. Did you see? Gosh, this is like a whole other podcast here.
Yeah.
Um there's a company in Michigan that's developing high capacity, sustainably sourced batteries, and they fitted their battery pack into a Model S. They like used the Model S body, but they used their battery, and they got 720 miles of range.
With just a battery switch.
One charge with their new battery tech.
Wow, that's really cool.
That that is absolutely bonkers. That is to the point where you wouldn't have to really worry about, because I feel like the with 200 or something model miles of range, do you charge it pretty much every day or every couple of days?
I haven't I've only driven it a couple, like maybe 3 or 400. No, less than that. Probably like 300 miles or something total. So I haven't
That's
done
true. It's only
that
been
much
2 weeks.
charging. Yeah, and even still, like I still bike to work because the weather's nice. So
But imagine that if you had 720 miles of range, you wouldn't have had to charge it at all in the entire time you've owned it.
yeah, no, that's really, really nice.
Yeah, I'm really that's one of the reasons why I didn't want to purchase a car. Because I feel like EVs are moving so fast that I don't want to, EVs are expensive, and if you can lease it where you're not tied to the car for 6 years or so while you pay it off, or just paying cash and then eating that depreciation. Yeah, leasing isn't the most cost effective. Yeah, you can always just go buy a used Camry or whatever, but I definitely like the idea of being able to move with the time, because I feel like
Hmm.
3 years from now, when your lease is up, it's going to be a whole new environment.
Yeah, I like that you can have like a modern car, but you're not like tied to it
Mm-hmm.
forever. And like
Yeah.
the last lease that we had was perfect. The 3 years, and it ended like right when I was moving to California, and
Yeah.
you were moving to DC and everything, like, or moving apartments, whatever. It was like the perfect thing.
Dude, and our leases also ended. Did you end up buying the car and then selling it?
Yeah, to CarMax.
Dude, freemoneyglitch.com.
Yeah.
So for context, for those of you who are still here, Noah and I both lease our cars in. I think mine was July 25th. Yours was like August 13th.
Something like that. Yeah, a little
Why
after
do I
yours.
remember those exact dates? That's so random. But of 2018. So last summer, both of our leases expired at the same time. Now, when you sign a car lease, if you don't know, unless it's a Tesla, which doesn't let you do that, the clause has a buyout option. So at the end of your lease price, you pre-negotiate when you sign it how much money you could do to basically buy out the remainder of the car that you haven't paid for in the lease and then keep it after your lease term. And most people don't do that because it's usually, it's usually like a fair estimate. It's not like they're, crazy overcharging you or anything, but it's not like insanely good. It's an option that you have if you really like the car. You basically just pay the rest of what it's worth and then it's yours.
Yeah.
It's called the residual value, and it affects the price of your lease, but Tesla doesn't let you keep the car afterwards anyway. So it's really dumb because Tesla's leasing is a shit show and they overcharge and underdeliver and don't ever lease a Tesla. But we signed our leases and our buyout was, I think mine was a little less than yours because you had the fancy package, but somewhere in the neighborhood of 19,000.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which, by the way, is quite good residual value on, I think the MSRP was 32, 33.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, that's good.
monthly payments were quite low. Mine was 285. Yours was like 305 or something. We had very low payments. We got good deals. But it got even better because in 2018, when they said your residual value is $18,900, nobody would have anticipated the car market that we are now in. And as a result of that, our cars that we were contractually allowed to purchase for $18,000 were worth $26,000.
Yep.
So, Noah, what did you do?
Well, we didn't even, I don't know how yours worked, but for me, I didn't even have to buy the car. I went to
Yeah.
CarMax and since I had the lease, they used that to buy the car directly from them. I didn't have to do I just went to CarMax and they bought the car off the lease and then they gave us I think they sent a check for a little over $5,000 and that was it.
It's ridiculous. It's literally free money. So that, that same thing here paid for, I think, more than half of the cost of the lease.
Yeah, because it wasn't
stupid.
Yeah, it wasn't even
so funny.
that much.
It is really. It's kind of crazy. So yeah, we got very, very, very good deals on that. Obviously, going to a Polestar 2 and a Audi A6, not going to be as cheap to run.
That is true.
But that's okay because the thing is, if a car is an appliance that you use to do your tasks from day to day, that's fine. If you just want, whatever the most reliable, cheapest engine that'll just go until the end of time, fantastic. Save some money. Just keep on going.
Yeah.
But yeah, like good old Chuck, who's still going. He's still going. No signs of stopping yet. But some people want something different from their car. I don't know. I am really toying with the idea of someday I really want to get like a 335i or like an M4 BMW, like a used one. That something that I like a little bit more enthusiast that I could work on and learn more about working on cars. That's what I want to do at some point when I have funds and garage space to enable that.
Yeah.
But in the short term, EV.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Zach. We basically just answered that. The CX-5. We both had a blue CX-5 with white interior.
Mm-hmm.
2018. Before that, Noah had a 2011 Chevy Cruze 1LT with the RS package, which
Oh, yeah.
added a stripe, I think.
I had that red racing stripe or whatever
Mm,
it's called.
that or no, it had no. You had coach lines.
Oh yeah, the coach lines. Yeah, yeah. Yeah. The red. That was the perfect. It was a black car with red coach lines, and that was like the thing. Like red's my favorite color. It was like perfect.
There you go. And I had at the same time the um 2010 Mazda 3. That was a good little car.
That was a classic with tiny little screen way in the
Oh my
front.
god, dude. And it had an alphabetical keyboard. So if you wanted to use the GPS, which plot twist you didn't, you had to scroll letter and character at a time through it with the steering wheel button going t t t t t t t t t. If you ever wanted to go to Kalamazoo, forget it. You're never gonna get there.
Yeah, you're gonna spend all your time typing it in.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah, that was
jeez.
a classic. But yeah,
Yeah.
next up, EV time for me. You're already there. Hopefully, the next round of EVs are gonna have some big boy batteries. I do worry about like as more people get EVs, are there just gonna be massive, massive lines? Because it's not like a gas station where you're in and out in 5 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
Have you
definitely
noticed
longer.
any? Have you had to like skip over any charging stations because they were full?
I haven't because the times that I've tried to charge weren't really like times where I would expect a lot of people to be there. But you know what? There was one time when I went to a charger, it was empty. Like there was no one else there, but it took like 15 minutes to get the thing to like start going. And we legitimately thought it was broken. And eventually we got it to
Hmm.
work. But like it was like that was, not super great.
Electrify America has had a lot of issues with reliability of the chargers. Yeah, I've heard
Yeah.
about that. And a lot of them are actually broken. Like sometimes it's not just a glitch on the app or whatever. Sometimes they're
Hmm.
just fully busted, or the high speed ones won't work, and then it's a low speed. I'm really hoping that by May 2024, when my lease is up and it's time to go for an A6 e-tron or maybe an S4 e-tron, I'm hoping that they do. I want something cool and fast. It might be very expensive. I'm gonna start saving for it now. I'm gonna go all out when I go EV.
Yeah, that's what you got to do.
All right, you know what we should do?
What should we do?
We should end the bonus content.
Yeah, I think so.
All right, thank you guys for sticking around. We'll see you next week.
Yep.